go from there. All right. I want to say welcome to everybody joining today's Small Business Administration Q&A session on the topic of EIDL. My name is Rebecca Goebbels, and I am a business and program development consultant here at the Missouri Small Business Development Center at UMKC. And I will be our facilitator for an amazing conversation and opportunity to ask questions directly of Small Business Administration representatives today. And so we have with us two lending specialists for the Small Business Administration today. And I see Mike is the first person on my screen. So Mike, would you start by introducing yourself to our audience today?
Yes, Rebecca, I will. I'm Mike McWhorter. I'm the lead lending relations specialist here in Kansas City for the Kansas City SBA district office. The Kansas City district office, just a real quick little background, was formed in 1954. The agency was formed in 53. In January, they opened the office here in Kansas City. So we're among the first 10 offices open across the nation. We are responsible for a third of the western part of Kansas and half of the eastern part of Kansas and a half of the western part of Missouri. Because we're on the border, we're one of the few district offices that has two states. And anyway, I'm the lead lending relations specialist, and what that means is I'm the one that contacts the lenders and works with them and their training and stuff and helping them. I come from the SBA disaster office down in Fort Worth, which does a lot of it. And some of you in Missouri, I was there actually on the ground working in Joplin with the tornado down there. And so therefore today I'll be able to answer some of your questions that y'all have about the EIDLs program, how to go about it. And as I was telling Rebecca when we got on here too, now you may also have a reason to file a disaster loan for any flooding or stuff like that too. We can cover those topics also. Joining me today is Carolina Vargas. She's another lending relations specialist here in Kansas City. And Sheila Forrester, who's our economic development specialist, is on the line too today to help us. So we brought the whole team here today to help y'all. And any questions we can get you the answer to, we sure will do it.
That is so great. Want to remind, I'm delighted to have everybody from the office basically here on this call today. That's a rare opportunity. And want to remind our audience that the impetus for these sessions is that while this information is being presented in so many forms where you can, get slides and all this kind of a thing, one of the issues that we were running into is that there wasn't a ton of time for questions at the end because the information can be very dense. And so what we want to have for this session is a chance for everybody participating to have an opportunity to ask questions directly of our SBA experts that are with us today. And so to do that, on your screen, you should see a Q&A function. And so please type questions that you have about the EIDL loan program into that Q&A function. We can grab them in the chat if we have to, but it's easier in that Q&A function so that we can make sure and separate those out. And so I think we're at the point where I'm going to start asking a couple of questions that we get here in the office as a way to get us started that might spur some thinking from our audience.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. So my first question is this. Can I still get an EIDL loan, Mike? Carolina, Sheila, can I still get some of this money?
Yes. Hi, I can answer that. Yes, you can still answer get the EIDL loan. It's a 30-year loan. It could be either a 3.75 or a 2.75 for 30 years. They are still accepting applications, but they are not accepting anything for grants.
Ah, okay. So this is great. So a couple things. One, 30-year loan. So the reason these loans are so long is to keep the payments small. Is that right? Because if I had to pay off my house in 5 years, because sometimes people need a lot of money. If I had to pay off my house in 5 years, I know my mortgage would be out of reach. But if I had to pay my mortgage off for my house in 30 years, I could probably cover that. Is that why these terms are so long, to make the payments accessible for folks?
No,
Go ahead,
Kelly,
Mike. Sorry.
Kelly, a little background. The 30 years on the PPP program came out together. Anybody that's filing for a EIDL under the COVID-19 disaster, we have over 10 million applicants. And so rather than go through and say, well, I'm sorry, Kelly, Rebecca, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll answer the whole thing.
It's hard getting old. I'm sorry. You know, I got the wheelchair.
I'm right behind you, my friend.
They're gonna pull me out of here in a minute. So yeah. The reason, Rebecca, that we went to a 30-year on the COVID-19 is because we knew we'd be inundated with so many applications.
Okay.
Typically, we base the repayment on the borrower's ability to repay, and going with your home thing. Now, if you were a cardiologist making $350,000 a year and you was buying a $100,000 home, a 5-year term might not be unreasonable to pay off. So basically, under the EIDL program, we always matched it to what the person's ability was to be able to pay. And under the COVID, because we knew we'd be inundated with so many applications, we just set the terms at 30 years on everybody.
Gotcha, because that's nice and accessible.
It's just for necessity, because if you get 10,000 or you get $1 million, you're going to be on a 30-year term. We're just doing it to cut down on and we're trying to do it as quickly as possible. So we can crank the notes out, 30-year note. Everybody's got the same thing, and it makes it easier.
So internal ease to process, as well as for the customer, nice long time to pay it back. Right. Now, what if I don't want to owe money for 30 years? Can I pay this thing back early?
Carolina?
I see Carolina shaking her head.
Yes, you can. There's no penalties on paying this early. And usually this is used for working capital or normal operating expenses. An example will be continuation of healthcare benefits, utilities, fixed debt payments. You can't just go paying existing debt like credit cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay, so let me go back to something else you shared earlier, Carolina. You said they were still accepting applications. And so now there's a rumor on the street that accepting applications and doing new loans may be different. Are both of those things happening, or are we just accepting new applications?
That I am not aware. I know they are accepting applications, but I'm not sure if there is new procedures. Maybe Mike might know that.
As far as I get from my friends who still work there, they're accepting and processing the applications. Again, we're a small organization. A lot of people don't realize the SBA, before the COVID and everything, we only had 2,800 employees. So we're a small agency, not like you're used to, like the DOD, Department of Defense, or the USDA has hundreds of thousands of employees. We're relatively very small. So if someone fills out an application right now today, I feel comfortable confident that it'll be processed in a timely manner, but please have patience because we are inundated with so many loan applications currently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So doing a lot with few people. So we have our first question from the audience. And so Callie asks, what does the SBA want for backup as to what the loan funds were used for on EIDL loans, which this is a little different, right? So how you EIDL, let's talk first about how your EIDL loan amount is calculated, and then let's come back to Callie's question, because I think that first piece of information will help answer where Callie's at.
Right.
So how do you guys figure out how much EIDL money I get? Or do I just get to tell you?
They take a sack of bones, they shake it up, and they throw it on the desk, and Rebecca, and it just pops out there, and that's how the number, it's magic.
I got to tell you, people might believe you, Mike. Be careful.
I know. I know it seems like there's no rhyme or reason to it, but what we're looking at is we're looking at the basic concept of the EIDL program. Was based on needs. What does a person need to keep their business operating? And the key word to the whole thing is needs. And like Carolina said, it's a working capital type loan. And therefore it's made to pay your needs. So if Rebecca, and I'm gonna keep doing this all day. Rebecca, if you had a business and your needs would be like paying rent, paying payroll, paying mortgage payments, or maybe paying loan payments on equipment, paying utility bills. anything that working capital, most people who have a business are familiar with lines of credit or working capital. That's what the EIDL is a working capital. It's not a revolving. It doesn't go up and down. It's a one time, and we give you all the money at once.
Gotcha.
That being said, go back to the way we formulated this. We take a look at your revenue and your cost. That on the application is all they fill out online is they give you the revenues they've made for 2019 and what was their cost. And we look at the comparison of the two and we figure out what your needs are based off that. We're not replacing profit.
Gotcha.
We're not there to replace your profit, but you have to be profitable to get a loan. If you have a negative or you're losing money, then we have to go look at some other financials and stuff like that, which could delay you getting an EIDL. You may have to provide more information. But we look at your needs of what your costs are and what we got to do. The one thing I would say to be a big one is what can I use the use of proceeds is a long list, but what can I not use the use of proceeds be a small list and might be very important to the audience.
Yeah, because I think that use of funds gets to the essence of Callie's question.
Yeah. You cannot use the funds to expand your business. You cannot use the funds to pay off loans. You cannot use the funds to buy equipment. You can make payments on loans and you can go buy equipment, but we don't want the money to go to, you started before the disaster, you had a 10,000 square foot warehouse that you worked out of, and you got the EIDL loan and went down and bought additional 2,000 square feet. You can't use the money to expand your business, grow your business, because what we're looking at is put you back in the condition you were before the disaster.
Yeah.
And yes, the COVID is a disaster. So we're going back to the March when all of us consider and shake our head, yeah, I didn't have to have this thing on and all that. So before that, how were you setting and what position was you in? We cannot better that position.
Gotcha.
And I think that's
okay, so that's what I can use the funds for, barring those couple of things. And then we have a question in the chat asking, okay, well, I use the fund. It says, if we have an EIDL loan, can we apply for forgiveness or partial forgiveness?
That'd be Carolina.
Yeah.
No. So as I said at the beginning, this is not a forgivable loan. This is an actual loan made through the SBA. This is not made through the lender. One thing that I wanted to mention is that for those that did get the EIDL loan, they have a 1-year deferment on this loan, so they don't start making payments from into next year.
Okay. So, and that's deferred from the day the money showed up in my account? From
The date of disbursement, yes.
Okay. So the day the money showed up, because like sometimes, and it's getting closer, but sometimes people were getting money and then 2 and 3 weeks, loan documents were chasing behind. And so like, well, when's my year? Okay. So it's from the day the money showed up. All right. So, okay, let me ask this question. I was maybe told that I should apply for EIDL to get some free grant funds. And now I hear everybody saying EIDL advance, and I can't find the grant language anywhere. What's going on with that?
Okay, the EIDL advance / grant money, and in our classes, and I know you've seen a few of them that I put on. Sorry, here moving around. The EIDL advance / grant. EIDL advance and EIDL grant are the same product, same deal. That has ended. Congress gave or dedicated like $130 billion, Rebecca, to do the grant portion of the EIDL. That money has gone away, and there's no talk on the hill of bringing it back. We did that just for emergency, get money on the street.
Okay.
The advanced grant, so people interchange those two words, but it's the same program. And that expired as we depleted the funds. We depleted all the funds in that project. And now the EIDL is available, which is from roughly $100. I don't know that you'd want to go through all the hoops for $100, but $100 up to $2 million is what our EIDL program is. People who filled out an EIDL application like in March or April or May or June, even last month, a lot of people are getting 150,000, but they're going, but I need more money. They have to apply for additional funds because we maxed everything at 150 so we could get as many people money in their pocket. If we had went out and started doing 2 million to all these, we would have ran out of money. Do we run out of money? Yes, we operate under a different thing than the United States government budget, but we have to have money allocated from Congress, which has the purse strings to put the money in there. So we're trying to get everybody touched a little bit, and then we'll go back and see what we need to do. But if you applied for, if you did not apply for the advance back before September, then that program's no longer available, and there is no funds coming forth for that.
Okay, so just to clarify, this grant / advance thing, not a thing anymore, but getting the excellent low rate and 30-year terms is something you can still apply for now.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sweet. Got another question from our audience. So we have Elaine mentioning that they are folks with the 1-year deferment, but business is still difficult. So if business hasn't completely recovered by next summer, will an extension on their beginning of payments be considered?
Very good question, Rebecca. That's an excellent point. In the disaster program, we're used to dealing with people, like I said, like hurricanes and tornadoes at the beginning. We're used to, in that era or that structure, of allowing people year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years, because if you're rebuilding, in obvious reasons why you rebuild after being destroyed. The COVID didn't destroy anything, but we're allowing a year, and to get an additional time on that is merely a communication from the borrower going, you know, and everybody's going to know it, because if the country's still shut down or we shut down again, everybody's going to know about it. So it's not going to be a big secret. And they should be able to just send an email to the servicing center, which they will have that in their paperwork, and say, I need another 6 months, or business hadn't returned. And we're real good about granting that, because again, we got 30 years to repay the loan. So we're not in no time crunch. Like if it was a 3 or 4 year loan and you kept deferring 12 months, pretty soon you're going to have a massive payment due. And we don't do that. We do not do balloon payments. Everything has to be amortized out over the term left on the loan. So yes, it's easy to do it. It's not complex, and you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. And under this pandemic declaration, people are going to know, and they'll probably, the SBA will probably come out and give another 6 month waiver if something happens in the spring and the government shuts down again, or the country.
So
they're very proactive.
Pardon me, Mike. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Okay.
It sounds like individually you can request it when the time gets close, but that looking at whether or not the agency as a whole is gonna make extensions because things are still squirrely is on the table possibly too. Is that fair?
That's fair, and nobody has a crystal ball, but we are, speaking from experience of hurricanes, we're normally proactive about going 12 months the first, and if it's a massive destruction and people aren't able, we go immediately, we'll extend to 24 months as an agency.
Okay.
The pandemic, if we come into the winter and nothing shuts down again and people's payments are coming due in May and June or whatever they applied, then that might be just that part of the country, or maybe that business hadn't come back, and they'll have to initiate the request for additional 12 months. But I will tell people, if we're still quarantined, blah, 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 going on into the spring, the agency will 99.9% of the time extend 12 more months.
Okay, that's good to know. I have a clarification from Carrie. Carrie asked the question about what the funds for EIDL could be used for, but she's like, okay, it's easier to make the list of the things they can't be used for. So she's wanting to make sure she got them all down. She says you can't use it to expand the business, can't use it to pay off loans, can't use it to buy new equipment. Her question is, did she miss any of the big ones?
That's pretty much it. And I would tell her that the good rule of thumb, as I hold my thumb up, is there's an interesting story where that comes from, but we won't get into that. Is if you think about your business, the day before the declaration, which was in March, I'm gonna say March 8th. Let's just use that date. March 8th, the president declared the country under a declaration for COVID disaster. From that day, what was say February, you could just think of it that way. How was my business doing in February? What did I have? Did I have this typewriter, this computer, this, that? Whatever you were in that condition, that's what you will have to be in with the idle funds. We can't advance you or buy. Oh, but Mike, I can go down and buy this great inventory because I know these people are going out of business. They could, well, yeah, go buy your inventory because that's something you use on a daily, possibly, or monthly cycle, and that's keeping your business going. Now, you can't go down and buy equipment and going to open up another restaurant and buy the equipment from somebody else. So if you can expand it, grow it, or increase your footprint, then you can't use the idle funds for any of that. And you cannot, it's not a refinance either, so you can't pay any debt off. You can make monthly payments.
So, and it's not to say that you can't do those things, it's that you can't do those things with these funds.
Correct.
Right. And so that's really where some of the work that we do with people one-on-one at the Small Business Development Center can be helpful, because it's not to say that you can't grow and do these things. It just means that the money you receive from idle has to be used for other things. But the money you receive from sales or other stuff can absolutely be used for that. So it's really about how we're going to account for this stuff, not that it can't be done.
And a lot of it, Rebecca's going to come to the fact is your money's going to be commingled.
Yeah.
So we're not going to sit and go dollar for dollar where you went. But and like you say, at the SBDCs, Rebecca and your team, you can help them come up with a flow chart, maybe an Excel spreadsheet, list what they're paying with it. They don't have to use all that money in 8 weeks like the PPP program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You sit on it.
Yeah, they can use it over a 6-month period, 8-month period, as long as they use it for those eligible use of proceeds.
That's right. And again, we at the Small Business Development Center can help you figure out how to do that. And Michelle has put our contact information in the chat so that you can figure out how to reach us and some of the other Small Business Administration funded programs to help with that stuff. All right, we got some more great questions from the group. Here's a question. What happens if I got a letter saying that my information wasn't verifiable for my EIDL loan, and so my loan wasn't approved? Now what do I do?
Back up and punt would be the thing. No, what you have to do is provide what they're saying is, and again, I apologize the fact that we had so many applications, we had to come up with a quick, easy way to review them so we can get you back answers as individuals quickly as possible. They were not able to locate the name of your business anywhere in a normal search perimeter of businesses. And that could be as simple as a Google, Rebecca and Mike LLC, and they don't find us, then that means they're going to go, okay, you're going to kick it back to you and say we couldn't prove it. Then for us, what we need to do is either provide like a tax return with the information on it, maybe a business certificate from the county, sales certificate that you get from the state, something proving that we are in business as that entity is all they're going to need. And they've got that down pretty well too. I think Carolina had a couple of those where it's just an email and you attach the document like a PDF, or if people have trouble, a Word document or something. Isn't that right, Carolina? And you just send it back.
Yeah, so there's actually, and Sheila, I think, posted that in the answer. So you will email the PDC recon at SBA.gov within the 6 months to be considered for reconsideration. And like Mike said, make sure that you do attach any additional documents for them to verify. Make sure you include your application information that's required. And if there was if in the letter that you received, there was an actual reason why you got declined for.
Okay, so wait. You said I need to email somebody, and then I didn't have my pencil. What am I doing?
I'm going to just try to.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I see it in the chat here. P as in Paul, D as in dog, C as in, I don't know, cat, recons, like reconnaissance, at sba.gov. With the subject line, making the subject line saying your loan application number, and, so blah, blah, blah number, reconsideration is what that should.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
you can also mail it, and I'm putting the mail information in here in
Okay.
the chat.
We can talk about the postal service in another a webinar. All right. So, but you have choices. You've got the postal service. You have email choices, that kind of thing. So hopefully that gets our questioner some information to help. Like, oh, I got turned down. What do I do? And I think that's one of the things we're hearing a lot in our office is people who are like, I don't know how they made any of this determination, or what if I got approved for what I think is the wrong amount?
Well, one thing also, Rebecca, some people are getting decline letters because of credit score. When those EIDL loans got opened up, one of the things was it will be based on your credit score.
Oh, okay. So wait a minute. So I remember during like emergency times, like March, April, everybody's like, get the money on the street. And there was something about credit worthiness. And now that things have not necessarily improved for all, but the pace has slowed some. Seems like this credit worthiness is something that's hitting my ears differently now. So this means I have to be somebody who could actually qualify for a loan on my own before you'll give me a loan? Like, my credit score has to be good? Like, what does that mean? Because at the time, everybody was just like, here's some money. And now that things are slowing down a little bit, it's like, wait, what was that? I missed some of these details. So what is this credit worthiness thing that you're talking about?
Well,
so go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Carolina.
The credit worthiness has been since day one, Rebecca, that they have been made that determination since day one.
I agree. And I think people are hearing it now and not hearing it from day one. So I wanted to make sure and make that point because it's so to get a loan. I mean, if your cousin came to you and asked you for a loan, one of the first questions you'd ask is, do I think my cousin will pay me back? Right?
Yep.
I mean, just within your own family. And so there are some things to this because this is a loan. It's not forgivable. And it's effectively all of our tax dollars having been pooled together and given out to people who could use them, but also have a high likelihood of returning the dollars back to us, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so there's a credit score component to this. Is there like a number we should be looking at or some things we should be doing?
I think probably anything of 650 and above. I mean, I don't know. Mike probably would know better than that on the credit portion.
Okay.
Typically, Rebecca, what we're hearing, what question we're getting is, I got approved for the advanced grant, back to that program. I got approved for that, and then I got declined for my EIDL loan. How can that be? The grant, again, was not a loan, it's a grant, and we were giving that to businesses who were in operation affected by the COVID-19.
Okay.
Basically everybody. The EIDL loan, keyword loan, has to be made on credit worthiness, and then if you don't, and the credit score number, it's a magical number out there that we set sometimes, but we're usually in the 5 to upper 500s, because again, when you're dealing with a disaster can impact your credit immediately before anybody starts deferring payments.
Okay.
So we try to look at what was the history. Once we get to that low number, then we're going to decline it for that. And then the people have to send back to us going, yeah, but look, here's the reason, because, you know, the cat ran off. I had to go look for it. I couldn't make my bills, you know, whatever the reason is, then we'll look at it and adjust that and make sure we're okay. But it is a credit worthiness aspect of it, because it is a loan, and we have to be good stewards of your money and my money and everybody's on the call's money, because you're right, it's taxpayer funded money.
Okay. Well, this is hugely helpful. So, okay. In my mind, winka winka, because I actually do secretly know the answer to this because this is what I do for a living. But this is a question I get asked all the time. So we're going to pretend I don't know.
I was thinking maybe you're saying my mind wink wink, because, you know, it was there at one time.
Yeah, 100%. I think in COVID times, we all need to spot each other some grace for not being able to think of stuff. Well, okay, so let's talk about, so wait, I got this letter for denial, and then it sounds like I can just write to you and be like, hey, if you denied me for credit, these are the reasons why COVID axed my credit, and you should still help me. That's a thing?
That's a real thing. Now, unfortunately, if your car got repoed last November
Well,
and your house got repoed in the summer of last year, 2019, and you hadn't paid anybody, you're behind 140 days on all your credit cards are all closed because of 2019. It's going to be a little hard to say COVID caused that.
gotcha. So if it's recent and you can make a case, make the case.
Right.
If it's historical.
And another thing too, Rebecca, we do something that you don't do, as you well know of SBA 7A and 504s. If you have a loss to the government, we can't do a 504 or 7A loan for you, correct?
Correct.
We can do a disaster loan if you lost money or had an SBA loan defaulted. We can still make you a disaster loan.
Oh, okay. So general gist, audience, what Mike is telling us is that if you've defaulted on federally guaranteed mortgage, federally guaranteed student debt, that kind of thing, that all other SBA financing is not available to you. However, EIDL loans are, because it's disaster based. And disaster has nothing to do with whatever squirrely thing you did with your student loan.
And Rebecca, remember, this is the only program that we lend money straight to the individual. All the programs we're talking about, and I know sometimes we in the group here, sometimes 7A, 7A, and people are like, what are they talking about? SBA guarantees loans to normal businesses to be able to buy, sell, grow, whatever. We make those loans by guaranteeing like FHA. The disaster loans are made straight to the individuals, not through a bank. And because it's a disaster, if you had, and this, I always, when I work down there, this is just a good example. You know, Mike, I had a loan back in 2018. I defaulted on an SBA loan. It went in foreclosure. The reason was I had pancreatic cancer. I had to shut down my operation. I was a one-man shop. I was in the hospital in and out for the next year and a half. Fortunately, I've recovered, and I'm doing better now. Those people will take that story and will go, okay, and it's a disaster. Here's your loan, and go on. They can't go to the regular 7A bank and get a loan because they got a disaster loan, but we'll make great amount of this exceptions for credit, any kind of history problems or anything. We try to always say yes, because people who have been affected by a disaster, whether it's COVID, tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, that was all outside of their realm of being able to control.
Okay.
And we look at that as going, you know, this wasn't because Mike went to Vegas and spent all of his money and don't have any money for his business anymore. These are uncontrollable situations that happen to individuals. Okay. And as a country, we want to help. And remember, we do loans for homeowners, renters, and small businesses alike. So we're there to help them and try to get them back on their feet, as we all want our American brothers and sisters to be able to recover. You know, that's why the country pitches in and helps everybody. So
so some more flexibility for these disaster loans than some of the traditional Small Business Administration loan guarantee products. That's good to hear. We got a couple of questions in the chat. Question from Julia. Does my EIDL grant money, so I got some money during that advance period, all right, does my grant money from EIDL reduce the amount of forgiveness on my PPP loan?
Currently it does. But as we had the class yesterday, tuned in, we had a great roundtable about that, and we'll have one tomorrow about the 3508 form. Plug. Anyway, the EIDL advance is deducted from the amount of forgiveness at this current time, because you can't get, regardless, you can't get two grants from the government for the same thing. And as Rebecca here can say, she works with people too that apply for grants for, you know, IT expansion. Somebody's got an idea about how to do something better. They can actually file for SBIRs and all this kind of stuff, grants. And they can't get that grant and then go over and get one from USDA and one from, the government will not give you a grant for the same exact thing. And because the EIDL advance / grant was given to you to help your employees, because it's based on each employee, $1,000. The PPP was a loan like the EIDL loan is now. It was a loan, not a grant, but when we forgive it, it then becomes to grant status, and you can't receive the 2 grants.
Okay. So if I got one of those grants and I also got a PPP loan, it switches to an advance and it reduces the amount that I get forgiven on the PPP side.
But your PPP loan is at 1% interest over the next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah. So it's still inexpensive money, but people have a lot of questions about this. And
And also some of the lenders did deduct that grant at the beginning. So if they did that, then obviously they don't have to worry about it.
okay. So this is a question too. It sounds like, hey, lender, when you did my PPP loan, how did you figure my amount so that I can make it reflect that when I'm doing my PPP paperwork? And if you're like,
Yeah, and
PPP
some people
paperwork,
actually got their PPP money before they actually got the EIDL grant. So that's where it comes into play.
absolutely. So if you guys are like, wait, I thought we're talking about EIDL. What is this PPP loan stuff you guys are talking to me about? When are we going to talk about that? To Mike's earlier point, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, Thursday, the 17th at 3 o'clock. The information to join us for that conversation will be put into the chat shortly, but there's an opportunity to have that conversation with us tomorrow. Lots of questions about that too. We talked about short form. We're going to talk about long form. And you're like, what is any of that? Join us tomorrow at 3. All right.
Tune in tomorrow to find out more.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So we have another question. We have somebody who has some questions about this reconsideration, because again, that email and telling us how to do that, incredibly helpful to our audience. And one of our attendees would like to know, how long does it normally take after the necessary information is sent in for reconsideration for the loan to be approved?
I might be retired before you get a. No, I'm kidding. It depends.
It's not very heartening, Mike.
I know, and I'm not retiring for another 15 years. But no, the request for reconsideration is going to be based on which type of reconsideration it is. As they decline you because they couldn't find your business. I think that was one of our questions we had there about, I got declined because they couldn't verify my business. Or one that we see quite a bit, and I'm sure y'all do, we couldn't verify your checking account. If the decline is for something like that and you send in for reconsideration, I'm just stating that's going to be a little quicker than I need a loan increase because I only got the $150,000. I want a reconsideration. Give me more money, because they're going to try again. Our number one intent is to get money into the pockets of the small business owners as quickly as possible. Once we get money in there, if we need to do any adjustments, then we'll come back and look at that once we sort of have the field level where people have got some type of funds put in their pocket. So if it's a reconsideration because you were declined because of credit, or because they couldn't verify your business or your checking account, those will be addressed, I hope, in a speedy time. But now remember, they may have done 1 million declines this month, and all those million are going to come in all together, and we have to sit there and stack them up and put them out to people. Gotcha. So I would say a good time frame is going to be somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks, maybe, before you get a response of whether you are or not. What have you heard, Carolina?
Well, about the same, but I was also going to say some people have actually gotten declined because they have not been in business long enough. Like let's say I opened my business back in June of last year. I don't have enough to show the SBA that how much money I was getting. Okay. I've seen a lot of those.
Gotcha. And so for me to be eligible for these EIDL funds, when should my business have been in existence?
At least a 12-month period, so we can have some kind of history on what your needs are. And then I think, June's a little, that's, of course, we're already past June, but like somebody that started a business in December of 2019, they're not going to have a tax return. All they're going to have is a P&L statement. And so therefore that business will probably have to be in business so we go through a tax cycle, so we can have something tangible we can look at, hold in our hands and say that's correct.
To my recollection, I think it was like what, February 15th, 2019 is what's in the reg. To my recollection.
Yeah,
Carolyn says it sounds right.
That number's very big in the regs for the PPP. The EIDL takes a different look because it's a loan program, not a other one. And in our loan program, what we have to have, and we make, again, we're very flexible and we'll work with you. But like if you're a new business, as Carolyn said, and you got declined, then you're going to have to show us some information or show us something that we can verify or put our hands on that shows, yeah, I've started my business in December. Here's my certificate of occupancy maybe, or here's my certificate to do business. I got a daycare, I had to get a certificate. Here it is. Here's my current P&L statement, my profit and loss, what I did prior to the COVID. Now during the COVID, they've been shut down some. Students are limited, so now their sales are a little lower. So you're going to have to work and prove it up. Somebody that's been in business from 2015, we just go click, IRS. There you go. We know you've been there. We know what you got's going on there. So
who can help our audience figure out how to build this case? Oh wait, it's us.
Don't call us. Just call Rebecca.
That's
please.
right. Us here at the Missouri Small Business Development Center, as well as our counterparts across the state line at the Kansas Small Business Development Center, Johnson County Community College, as well as Women's Business Center, Service Corps of Retired Executives. All of those programs that are Small Business Administration funded have jumped in to try and help with us. The SBDCs are doing a lot of that day in, day out work, but we're part of a large group of folks who can help you with these things one-on-one. So again, I know our contact information is in the chat. Mike.
I was going to say, Rebecca, the other day, I even got an email from a person who was in our chat, our conference yesterday, that was asking about, can they get they got a mother and father out in Oregon, can they get help? And, I said, yes, the SBDCs are across all of our states and in our territories too.
And territories, that's the one that I love the most.
So we can go to Guam. We can go to Guam. I've been there. It's a disaster. I don't want to do it again. It's a long plane ride.
No doubt.
From Dallas, Fort Worth. It's a long one. But guys, and that's, we know people in today's United States, people move. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I've been in DC, I've been in Kentucky, I've been in Chicago, now I'm in Kansas City. So you may have family members in another state. These programs that Rebecca was talking about, SCORE, Women's Business Council, I believe, SBDCs, they're all across the nation and they can help people. And if you need personal help in the Virgin Islands, I'll personally leave Kansas City, come look at your application, help you with it, so that you can do that on the beach.
Gotcha. Well, so Mike's willing to meet us on the beach if you've got loan questions. You heard it here first.
Yeah. It's St. Thomas, St. John, or St. Croix. Either one of those three. I can go
All right. We've got another question from the audience asking, how do I tell if my EIDL is one of those advanced grants or a loan? I applied in March and we received the money in June.
EIDL money, grant money advance, grant slash, I gotta keep saying that, grant advance, same thing, was $1,000 per employee. If you filled out your application, you said I had 3 employees, then you got $3,000. You also got the money, it came in like Christmas, it just popped into your account because we were so behind, the emails were late getting to the people letting them know we're doing it. But the United States Treasury didn't have problems sending all that money to all these banks real quick once we told them to do it. So you may have got the money before you got the email in some cases. But that money come in, it's going to be in $1,000 increments up to $10,000.
Okay.
So if you got a loan, you're going to have loan papers you had to sign and send back. And those numbers could be, 2,000.
Uh-oh, I think Mike's frozen.
I think so.
Well,
yeah, I'll take over. If you did receive a loan, yeah, you would have to sign a note, an authorization that would come from the SBA.
Okay.
And giving you all of the parameters around that loan, the percentages, how long is the loan for, when is your next payment due. So you would have received an email.
Okay, so if it's more than $10,000, it's loan money. If it's not equal, if it's 10,000 or less, but it doesn't end in exactly even thousands, it's loan money. And what will always happen is there will be a chaser. In some cases, money sometimes still showing up before loan documents, but you will get loan documents describing what that is.
Correct.
Okay, sweet. Carolina, talking about those loan documents is another question that we got from our audience, saying that I applied for an EIDL loan, the money showed up in my account, I got the loan documents later, but I don't like some of these collateral terms now that I actually see the loan documents. What do I do? Because I have the money, but now I don't like these terms. What do I do?
So the SBA will require, if it's anything above 25,000, they will require to pledge some collateral.
Okay.
So if it's less than 25, you don't have to pledge any collateral. But with that being said, what it is let's say, for example, I'm the one that's having the loan and I have a, I don't know, let's put my car as a collateral, but the bank will always come in first lien. We're not going to go after anything unless we really have to.
Okay.
That will be the key for that.
Okay. So let's say so if it's more than 25,000, I have to put up collateral, and I might have the money, and then I see the specific collateral or what's requested or the blanket lien on all assets or whatever it is, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't want this money on these terms. Can I just pay it back instantly? Like, what do I do? Because the money came before the loan docs. How do I?
If they don't want the money, they can always return it. Yes.
Okay. So
they can pay that back to SBA pay.gov.
Okay.
They have to submit a form 1201 into pay.gov.
Okay. So that's helpful because every once in a while, I know we are seeing people who are like, hey, this is great, cheap money, and I qualified for it, and so why not? And then you're like, oh, now that I'm seeing the collateral terms, I have different thoughts. Or people who applied in that first haze of the sky is actively falling, get your hands on all the money, fill out all the forms right now. And then like, what the hell forms did I fill out? So
yeah, and I have actually talked to some people that they have just, they got the money and they're like, well, at the end of the day, I never really needed it, so they just pay it back.
Okay. We have another question in the Q&A. It says, my letter didn't state the reason for not being approved other than, quote, unverifiable information. So how do you know the reason for not being approved? Is this that thing where it might mean we couldn't find that your business was real? What are we
That is correct. And one thing that I would recommend on doing that, it will be either emailing the disaster customer service at sba.gov or giving them a call. I'm going to put the number in here. It's 1-800-659-2955.
1-800-659-2955. And the contact information for clarification about that is in the chat. And so to Mike's earlier point, like if it says unverified, what I would do before I call anybody is figure out how could I verify that I'm real and have that information at my fingertips and then call and then email. Seems like the way to get the most from your time. Want to call out to everybody that Carolina has also put at the disaster customer service email address in the chat. If this is the boat that you find yourself in.
It looks like we got Mike back.
Yeah, and Mike's back. Yay, welcome back. Welcome back, my friend.
My squirrel fell off his little cage down there and he quit running. I had to pick him up and put him back in there. Give him a few peanuts. He got running again.
I heard you had Red Hots, not peanuts today.
Well, peanuts for the squirrel running my computer. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I tried Red Hots, but then he just started drinking a lot of water, got overweight, couldn't run.
Gotcha. Hey, guys, I'm wondering what are some of to take the questions up a notch to a little more overarching. And I'd like each of you to think about this separately, if you would. what are some common mistakes you see people making as it pertains to the EIDL loan process or anything regarding EIDL loans? What are some common mistakes that you see?
Well, they didn't contact the SBDC to start with to help them get assistance in how to fill out the EIDL is the most common mistake I see. How about you, Carolina? That sounds pretty good to you?
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I'll start it. Let's see. The most common mistake I see is, and to come back around to something y'all were speaking about. The most common mistake is, I got this loan funds. I don't need them. I just filled out stuff during the heyday of filling out stuff, and I don't want this loan. These loans are at such low interest. I mean, you can't go to the bank and get, I think prime's even higher than the interest rate we're charging on the loans. And I tell people that's such an inexpensive insurance policy. Go ahead and wait and maybe pay it back at the end of the year, because you have the 12-month period before you have to make payments. And you'll have that money there, because as we've talked about today, there's no telling what's going to happen next week. And it might be nice to have that money set aside, because once you return it, and we show the loan paid in full, you have to go back through the whole process again to try to get any money again. And it might be a little longer, it might take a little more time. So I think that's the mistake a lot of people, common mistake people make is, oh, I got to put this paid back. I'm paying. If you keep it 6 months, that interest rate, if it's 3.5, that interest rate is simple interest. That's not 3.5 and then the APR is 5.2. That's just simple interest. And for 6 months, that's 1 3/4%. So if it's $100,000, that costs you what, $1,700 for an insurance policy for 6 months to have that money available to use.
Gotcha.
And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see, or common mistakes I see people. They go through the process, they get it done. Now they got the money and they go, I don't want the money, and they pay it back too soon. And then they realize, oh no, Jackson County shut down the barbershops again. Now I can't work. I better apply for another EIDL. And now you're back at the back of the line going through it again.
Okay, that's great. Great way to think about short-term need versus long-term risk mitigation. That's good point of view to add to the conversation, Mike. Carolina, is there anything that you see as it pertains to the EIDL process that's avoidable mistakes, or even if unavoidable, because I guess going back in time in your DeLorean to have us help you is not really a thing that can be done. But as far as improvements or things that people can be doing as it pertains to this EIDL process in particular?
I always say, go and find the resources before you apply for it, because like Mike was saying, people panic and they're just trying to get, their hands in some funds for relief. But do your homework. I actually posted some frequently asked questions about the EIDL in the chat, where what happens, if I get denied, what are the conditions? Some of the conditions, you cannot be a felon for the past 5 years. So there's things that people don't think about. So I will always say, do your homework before give you guys a call, the SBDC, or give one of us a call. I know Sheila, for example, gets a lot of questions about the EIDL, so she might see a lot more than what I usually do. So I guess I'm just going to bounce it back to Sheila to see what has she heard from other people.
Hi, everyone. Yes, we do get a lot of questions on the EIDL, and there for a while, a lot of folks were getting denied. They have every right to reconsider, to submit the paperwork for reconsideration. I provided the email that folks could email PD reconsider. Well, it's in the chat box. I don't want to say it and then it be wrong, but I would highly encourage folks to, resubmit their paperwork for reconsideration. And of course, we have no way of knowing how long that could possibly take for them to go back through and reconsider their loan.
All right. Thank you for that information, guys. And we're coming to the conclusion of our time, but I'm delighted to be able to address one more question from the Q&A. Carrie asks, what about distributions made to the owners of S corporations? How does that work with EIDL?
It's going to be like your payroll. Now, if the distributions you're talking about off your K1s for your profit sharing, no, we don't want you paying profits to it. You could have a corporation have 100 owners of it, and a quarter point here, quarter there. We're not here to pay, like I said at the beginning, we're not here to replace profits. We're here to replace your needs to be able to keep operations open. So if it's a salary of the owner, then, and it's something they've been drawing, I understand the word was disbursements from the corporation, from the C corporation, but if that is some kind of form of possible income that individual needs because they're affected by the disaster too, then you can use it. One thing I would do is what Rebecca was talking about, getting with them and getting you a plan made of how you're going to keep track of what your expenditures are for your EIDL. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you need to keep this with your documents till you pay that loan off. If something goes sideways, and anything can happen in life, and you have to default on it, you're going to have that proof of what you spent the money on. So make it a source. Save it on your cloud, save it on your drive, whatever. But keep up with that money as you spend it. But we're not here to replace the profits. So if that's a profit disbursement to the owners through the C, then that's fine. If it's an S corp that flows through to the owners and that's part of their wages, they can definitely justify being paid that because that's what they make. It's their income.
Mm-hmm. So this questioner indicates that part of this owner is paid through standard payroll and part of it comes through distributions in K1. And the easiest way to answer that question is that those the payroll will get covered easy peasy, and the K1 is going to be a lot of conversation, and you got to decide how much conversation you want to have for what benefit. Just kind of how that works. And if you're like, oh, I'm in it to win it, call me. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I do want to reiterate that too, the people that are out there, again, as I said yesterday in the meeting, I'm going to say again today, and I'll probably say it again tomorrow too, is, ladies and gentlemen, you pay taxes that get funneled through the SBA, that get refunneled to Rebecca and the SBDC from us and all that. They're here to provide you with a free or low-cost service on any business needs you have, not only just for this EIDL or for any other part, but also surviving during this time period. They are working and they've been trained and they know different things and they have different avenues and resources that they can give you information on how to survive, right? And how to reopen, and people go, oh, it's free service, must not be anything. Trust me, Rebecca and I do not sit here free of charge. Your tax money is already paid for the service. Take advantage of reaching out to them. If you've never done it in the past, they are a wealth of knowledge over there, and they have the ability to tag stuff that you can't get without paying money for. And they can provide it with you, like numbers, flows, whatever it is, local, medium income. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. But guys, not just for EIDL or disaster stuff, reach out to Rebecca and them to help you figure out how to, because as I said yesterday, your business plan should be like your business Bible. And as everything changes and as your business grows, you should change your business plan. What are you doing? Where are you going? A restaurant now that used to have 200 people sitting in it, now is having to reach out. I noticed the other day at the grocery store, Jack Stack is now selling barbecue in vacuum sealed bags to help them stay in business is another avenue. And I never seen Jack Stack barbecue ribs in the grocery store before COVID in a vacuum sealed bag that I could buy. So your business model changes. Rebecca and them are a great resource to be able to go and help you make those changes. So remember that. It's not just about the disaster. They're here. They were here before, and they'll be here after.
That's right. New markets, new distribution channels, market research, help with financials. Like, does this even make financial sense in the first place? That's what we're here for. all that stuff, including financing. And so I want to say a huge thanks to all of you from the SBA today for spending some time with us, Sheila, Carolina, Mike, and remind everybody that this has been a wonderful and great conversation today about EIDL. And tomorrow, Thursday, the 17th at 3 o'clock, we're going to be getting back together to talk about PPP loan forgiveness. And if you don't qualify for that short form, what in the heck am I supposed to do with this long form? That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow afternoon at 3. Hope to see you all back here then. But between now and then, I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you. Y'all too. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.